Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about my favorite neighborhood again. We're talking about Lincoln Park, Chicago. It is an incredible place to live. If you're thinking about moving here in 2024, well, what I want to do today is basically take you into my computer screen and we're gonna do a detailed map tour on Google Maps. We're also gonna jump over into my Compass platform, show you some different properties. But in general, today we're gonna be talking about living in Lincoln Park, Chicago in 2024, a detailed map tour. We're gonna cover things such as where is proximity to schools, grocery stores, public transit, attractions, parks, vets, divvy stations if you're a bike rider, gyms, Home Depot and other conveniences like that, restaurants, and of course things like cafes. So today, let's dive deep into Lincoln Park and show you what it's all about. All right, let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jordan Pyle. I'm your go-to Chicago real estate agent. My team and I have been servicing the city of Chicago for about 10 and a half years now and would be absolutely honored to help you achieve your real estate goals. So whether you're moving to Chicago in 3 months or maybe even in 3 years, we would love to have a conversation with you and set you up with a strategy for success. So if you have any questions about moving to Chicago or moving around in Chicago, feel free to just text the number on the screen and a team member or myself will get in touch within 24 hours about whether we can help you sell your home or possibly buy a home here in Chicago. And for the sake of this video, help you buy or sell in Lincoln Park, Chicago. So if you could do us a favor, like the video, comment down below any additional questions you have, definitely subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to know about all things Chicago. Lastly, if you're not quite ready to engage with us and you're just not that far along in the process, but you want to be familiarized with Chicago, we send out a bi-weekly free newsletter, no obligations. You can unsubscribe at any time. The link is down in the description where you can sign up for that. All right, now that we're in my screen here, we're just gonna take a little bit of a tour around on Google Maps, and so you can familiarize yourself with your everyday conveniences and all the things that you're gonna need if you decide to live in Lincoln Park, Chicago. And so as you can see on the screen right now, these are the boundaries of Lincoln Park. We've talked about this on previous videos, but you're essentially on the southern border. Let me pull out my handy dandy little tool here. So on the southern border, this is North Avenue. So this is gonna be your southern border of Lincoln Park. Obviously this follows all the way up Lakeshore Drive to the northern border of Lincoln Park, which is Diversey Parkway, which is that red dotted line. You can see me going over that. And then it comes down like this and it basically follows the river down south. So that would be your western border, essentially the expressway, but just a little bit further in from that. We kind of call this like East Bucktown. So this is essentially your Lincoln Park border. So now that we've talked about that, let me clear this and let's get into and talk a little bit about some of the things that you can expect or finding the locations of some of your most common things that you might be curious about. So the first thing I want to talk about is schools. So if we type in schools in Lincoln Park, you can see it now is populated with a ton of schools. So again, I'm just gonna keep this on this general kind of map here and I might click in a little bit, but you can see there is a plethora of different schools, you know, from Lincoln Park High School being the main high school in Lincoln Park, obviously, to Francis W. Parker, to Abraham Lincoln, Alcott Elementary. There's basically pre-K through 8th grade and then also high school that you can find here in Lincoln Park. And so if you just kind of look around, you know, on the southern border, you have Douglas Elementary School. Most people, I would say, like your core area of Lincoln Park, in my personal opinion, is going to be kind of like this area. So like I would say around Oz Park, which we'll get into this a little bit in a little bit. This is Oz Park right here. I would say your most desirable spots in Lincoln Park are going to be, you know, within a couple mile radius, maybe a mile radius around the park itself. And so you can see Lincoln Park High School is right here. You have Francis W. Parker, which I believe is a private school. Don't quote me on that. I don't have kids, but I believe that is a private school. You have Abraham Lincoln Elementary. You have Oscar Mayer, which is a Montessori school, which I know a lot of people send their kids to. And so you can kind of get a feel for that area and some of the schools. So now if we take this tool off and we just move ourselves a little bit more north, this is going to be kind of what I would consider more like East Lincoln Park. So you have the zoo is essentially right here cutting across, and then this is Lincoln Avenue. That's gonna take you, basically jet you through the middle of Lincoln Park, all the way up to Diversey and over like this. So this triangle little cutout here, I would say is gonna be your more like East Lincoln Park, but specifically, even more so, is going to be right here, which is Clark Street. So anything east of Clark Street going this direction you're mainly gonna be finding like high-rise buildings, right? And so that is an area where your proximity to conveniences, things like that, is a little bit less, but obviously your proximity to the lake and all the things that the lake has to offer, you're just literally steps out your door to that. And so I would say, again, most people just for various different reasons want to live in a little bit more like central Lincoln Park. And I know that was a terrible drawing, but just to kind of give you a lay of the land and some of those cross streets that are flowing through there. So you can see, I'm not going to get into all the schools here, but you can see that there's a plethora of options here in the Lincoln Park neighborhood. So I want to zoom this back out again and move on to, obviously everyone needs to eat. So let's talk about where you can access some grocery stores. So let's go groceries, store, that works. So now you can see, in certain pockets, it's a little bit further, farther and fewer between. Jewel Osco is one of our bigger, like kind of, I guess, more mainstream grocery stores where it's not like a Whole Foods, it's not a Trader Joe's. You can really get anything you need there. Jewel Osco, that's kind of on your western border of Lincoln Park. One of my favorite Trader Joe's, there's another one down here, but one of my favorite ones is actually right here up on Diversey. I believe it's this. Oh, right here. So they have two really cool grocery stores right at the northern border of Lincoln Park. And that would be this Trader Joe's right here on Diversey. And then you have Dom's Kitchen and Market, which both of those, I love going in there. They have the full gamut of things. You can sit there at the bar and drink wine. You can get, individual pizza slices. You can get sushi. You can, whatever you want to do. It's more of an experience as you go grocery shopping versus going to somewhere more like a Jewel Osco where you're strictly going in for groceries. So you can see there's a Target grocery here, Go Grocer, which is just, kind of a little bit more of a hole in the wall, Target grocery, Big Apple Finer Foods. But your main grocery stores are going to be your Trader Joe's, your Dom's Kitchen Food Market, and then your Jewel Osco, and as well as Whole Foods. So if you go a little bit more south here, you can see there's Parkview Grocer, Carnival Foods, and just a few other little pop-ups around Lincoln Park. So definitely have plenty of options. I would say if you're not close to, some of these locations, it's going to be a little bit more inconvenient for you to get groceries and be able to walk back with them. I have a car, so if you have a car, obviously it's not a problem, but you're not going to be too far from a grocery store. You can always take a bus or something like that if needed. All right, so now that we covered schools and groceries, let's talk a little bit about how you're going to get around in Lincoln Park if you don't have a car. So let's dive into public transit. So you can see here on the screen now, this is going to zoom us in a little bit. I'm going to point out a couple different things. So the first thing I want to point out is your different train stops. So you have the Diversey L stop right here, which is the CTA or the train. And then obviously that comes south. You can pick that up at the Fullerton. You can pick that up at Armitage. And then you have a plethora of bus stops that you can see over in this region right here. And so really anywhere in Lincoln Park, you're not going to have a problem getting around. Even if you want to go north, you can pick up the Wellington or jump off the Wellington if you want to be more in Lakeview. And this is going to take you all the way down. As you can see, let me just click off of this so I can move my screen around. If you get a little bit more on the southern portion of Lincoln Park, you can pick up the train here at North and Clybourne, and then also just south into Lincoln, Old Town, just slightly, you have the Sedgwick station here. So this will, help you take anything south into the city of Chicago if you need to take public transit. And of course, there's bus lines, things like that, pretty much all throughout different parts of the city. So Clark Street here, you can see all these little blue dots. You can see the blue dots over here. These are all of your different bus lines that you can pick up if you're trying to commute. All right, so now that we covered schools, grocery, public transit, let's talk about just a few things to do. And so I'm just gonna click on this handy dandy things to do tab up at the top. This is gonna just point out a few things. So you can see here in the middle is the Oz Park, which I referred to before. I've referred on other videos, you up here a little bit more north, just north of Diversey. So it's kind of like Lakeview and Lincoln Park. It's like right on the border. You have the Diversey driving range and mini golf. Right here in the actual park itself, you have Peggy Nobart Nature Museum. You have the Lincoln Park Zoo, of course. If I zoom in a little bit more, give you an idea here. Alfred Caldwell Lily Pool, Lincoln Park Conservatory. This whole area is just absolutely gorgeous, especially if you're in the warm months here in Chicago. You have the South Lagoon that kind of runs parallel to Lakeshore Drive. Let's see what else. You have typically on, I think it's Wednesdays and Saturdays, right here, where you can see Farm in the Zoo. These are going to be farmers markets. So You can always jet across, into the park on a Wednesday or a Saturday, check out the farmer's market, stock up on some fresh goods. You have North Avenue Beach, which is one of the cool areas in Chicago that just really feels unreal when you're there, because you're standing on the beach right outside the big city, looking at an incredible skyline, and you have a huge body of water that feels like it's an ocean right next to you. And then one of my favorite runs actually is taking this basically south. So going south down the Lakeshore Path, and then going past what we call Castaways, which is like there's basically a big boat right here. It's not on the map, but it's on shore. It's like a big old ship, and that's now a venue and a restaurant, things like that. But then being able to run down the pier to North Ave. And so this right here, if you're looking south, this direction, is one of my favorite views in the entire city. So if you're just walking one day, you're visiting, you're living here, take a walk down the North Ave Pier and look south, and you're gonna be amazed by the view. It's one of my favorite parts, to go and catch a sunset and just kind of be in awe of the city as the sky changes colors. And ideally after a good workout or mid run is when I like to visit that. So that's a couple things there. Just a few other things. If I want to take this off, you have the Chicago History Museum right here. Hotel Lincoln, which is a really fun part. They have a rooftop bar that you can go to during the summer months. Just on the southern portion, just north of North Avenue, you have Second City, so comedy shows, you can go there for those. And just a whole gamut of other things. Summer House Santa Monica is a restaurant that I like to go to. And then, you can kind of see some of the other things that are around here. So that's just some of the things to do that I wanted to point out. So let's go into parks. So if you're just wanting your kids to have a place to play, there's a lot of neighborhood parks. There's a lot of smaller parks as well. The neighborhood parks are the smaller parks, and then you have a lot of the major parks as well. So one of your major parks is going to be Oz Park right here in the center. Obviously Lincoln Park itself and all the things that you can do in Lincoln Park, but then you can see all the little green patches, right? So you have Matthias Park here, you have, these little parks, Sedgwick Park, all these, what I would call neighborhood parks that are scattered throughout Lincoln Park, is really what so many people love about it. And so if you're just wanting to take your kid down the street to play on the playground, you have these little parks like this, right? And so you can kind of see as I zoom out where all these little green dots are. There's one here, that's a little bit, that's not actually Lincoln Park, but you have one here, you have one here, one here. You can see all the green spots. There's no shortage of parks. They're not huge parks. Obviously you have the big Lincoln Park, but unlike being downtown in the city of Chicago, where it's a little bit more dense, you have more high rises, things like that, you're gonna be able to find some green patches and some parks within a pretty easy walking distance, really no matter where you are in Lincoln Park. All right, so next up, as we're talking about parks, you may not have any kids, but you may have some furry friends or some furry kids. And so I just wanted to pull up where some of the vets are. If you need to, there's a plethora. Chicago is a very, very dog-friendly city. I feel like literally over 50% of the population has pets. And so you can kind of get a feel here. I'm not gonna go super into detail, but Oz Animal Hospital, Lincoln Park, you have Vetco, you have my veterinary emergency group, Animal Medical Center of Chicago. There's just a lot of different places you can take your pets to ensure that they're getting the best care. All right, next up, for all of you that maybe are more active and you may not want to walk, but you may want to ride a bike. So we have Divvy, which if you're not familiar with Divvy, it's basically like a bike sharing program. And so these are all the different stops where you can pick up and pay for a Divvy bike. And so you can just navigate around the city. So a lot of times, I see a bunch of people riding on Lakeshore Drive, or not on Lakeshore Drive, but on the lakefront. They, rent a bike maybe in one of these locations. They just pop over to the east. They ride up and down the lakefront. And you can also find them on the west side, more central Lincoln Park. And so there are a plethora of Divvy locations as well. So if riding a bike is more your thing than walking or driving, well, you can see right here that you're not gonna have any issue getting a bike. The one note on that I would say is just be a very proactive biker. Here in Chicago, people drive like maniacs, and so you just wanna be very proactive. Even though there are bike lanes and things like that, you just obviously wanna take a little extra caution if you're on a bike here in Chicago. All right, next up, for anyone and everyone that should be trying to take care of their health, let's pull up some of the gyms that you can go to. So you can see here, you have Barry's, Lincoln Park. You have Orange Theory, which I kind of think those are somewhat the same. It's like your treadmill slash floor combo where you're like lifting weights, but then you're transitioning between that and the treadmill. That's about a 45-minute to an hour class. That's just a good way if you just want to get a good sweat in, not have to think about anything. If I just want that type of workout and I'm just like, I just want someone to tell me what to do for 45 minutes and go get a really solid workout in, I'll go check those out. You have Hustle Fitness Chicago. You have Equinox, which is one of your main ones here. It's literally right across from our office. Our office is actually right in this area here. Lincoln Park CrossFit for all you CrossFitters out there. What else do we have? You have Shred 415, you have F45. You have another Equinox down in this region right here. It might be on the screen. Nope, it's not popping up for some reason, but there are a lot of different options that you can take advantage of for, Lincoln Park Athletic Club, LA Fitness, for getting your health in and making sure that you're prioritizing your health. All right, just a few more. We're going to talk about like Home Depots and different things like that, like your conveniences for housing, or like home goods. And then we're going to talk about restaurants and cafes, and then we'll wrap it up. So next up, I'm just going to pull up some Home Depots just so you can get an idea where these are. There's not a ton of them. The main one I would say that you're going to find in the actual city itself is this Home Depot that's located off of Halsted Street. And then if you have a car or something like that, you can go a little bit more west. There's one over here. There's one, southwest Lincoln Park. You can also, like Costco's and things like that. Let's see where these are. It's not with an S, Costco. So you can see these are a little bit more off the beaten path over here on the western side of Lincoln Park. I want to point out one other thing, just Midtown, which is a health club, which is also in Lincoln Park, is right in this area right here. A lot of people, like if you want more of like the health club experience versus a gym, this is going to be the spot in Lincoln Park that you would go to. And so that's just some of like your conveniences, things like that. Let's just quickly pull up your gas stations. You can see just kind of how these are scattered throughout. So no issue there. $4.77 a gallon, $4.10, $4.40. You can kind of check on here to see which one you may want to go to. But those are kind of your average prices of groceries here in Lincoln Park, or of gas, I should say. All right, the next up, let's just go quickly into restaurants. I mean, there's going to be a ton of them. And as I told you before, so this kind of diagonal street is Lincoln. And so that's kind of where a lot of these like more commercial spaces are going to be, your restaurants, your cafes, stuff like that. But you can see RJ Grunt's, which is a Chicago staple. You have Salt and Pepper, Velvet Taco, Sweet Green right here, Chicago Doghouse, Home Slice Pizza, Brown Bag Seafood, Cafe Barbarita, Summer House Santa Monica is a great spot for like a brunch, like a boozy brunch if you want to go there. I mean, there's really just no shortage of, there's Possible here in Lincoln Park on Clark Street. Clark Street also has like Collectivo Coffee, which we'll get into in a second. Sushi Para, Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinder. I've mentioned that. It's a very famous place for like a deep dish pizza here in Chicago. And lots of other things. So that's all we need to say on that. And then finally, let's just talk a little bit about if you want to get your caffeination like I do, and I continue to do, then I'll show you where some of your cafes are as well. So you can see here, there's again, La Colombe. I know that's probably La Colombe, but I always say La Colombe. Allure Coffee Bar, Printer's Row, Phil's Coffee, which is right by my office. You have Collectivo, which is one of my favorite spots in the city. And then a little hole in the wall right here, it's kind of a hidden gem, Elaine's Coffee Call. That's in the same building as the Lincoln Hotel. And then they have the rooftop that's called J. Parker, which in the summer, that's a really cool place to just get good views of the city, of sunsets. They open up the top. And then you can even go into the park itself, and you can go to Cafe Brouwer, you can go to Park Place Cafe, Edie Levy's, different places like that. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If we kind of turn back to my camera, this was just my way to try to show you around as if you were here in Chicago and we were touring together. I just wanted to do a deep dive Google Maps tour for the Lincoln Park neighborhood in Chicago. So if you're thinking about moving to Lincoln Park, Chicago in 2024, and you're wanting to know what a day in the life would look like, accessing conveniences, what schools your kids would go to, where you'd work out, and all the other things that we just discussed, well, I hope this has been a good resource for you. So if you have any questions whatsoever about moving to Chicago in 2024, just feel free to text the number on the screen. And like I said, a team member or myself will get in touch within 24 hours. Also, if you're thinking about selling your place in Lincoln Park, our team does about 50-50. We're 50% selling and we're 50% helping people buy. And so we can definitely do both, and we can help you in your transition or your move in and around Lincoln Park. So until the next video, take care. If you have any questions, feel free to just reach out. You can subscribe to our newsletter down in the description. Watch all these other videos about Lincoln Park that are on the screen, and we'll see you on the next video. All right, peace.